Hey, Tiz, it's me. The reason why I'm doing this video, we read in Corinthians about if your husband is pleased to dwell with you and you're an unbeliever, or if you're a believer and you're married to an unbeliever and they're pleased to dwell with you, that you should stay with them. I have to encourage you guys on this, that there are certain signs that you need to be looking for in that unbeliever that shows the displeasure or the unhappiness of dwelling with you. First of all, if your house is constantly in chaos, that's right there is a sign, and that person is the one creating that chaos. That person is not pleased to dwell with you. It's very rare that you're going to find an ungodly person that's going to be happy in a godly house or around godly people. And a lot of times we're sitting up there and we're not paying attention to the signs of them being unhappy. We're not paying attention to the signs of the fact that they don't want to be there. We're not paying attention to the signs that there is a pull going on to pull your soul away from God, to pull you out of the atmosphere in which God created. You're not happy in church anymore because your partner's heart is not there. Remind you, you two are one flesh. Therefore, if he's not pleased to dwell there, then sometimes you're going to find yourself with an issue of dwelling in the house of God because his spirit isn't happy there. So we have to sometimes separate ourselves because we're unequally yoked to these people. We're unequally married to these people. And the moment sometimes you hear them say, oh, well, you need to leave such and such. It's the reason why. Those sins are attaching on to you. They may be into fornication. They may be into a lifestyle of so many different things. They may be into adultery, hoism, so many different things that isn't of God. And it's not because they're willing participants in it. It's the fact that they are under possession of ungodly things. And these ungodly things are not going to allow them to have pleasure or peace in the house with you. Sometimes we're even dealing with that with believers because they are unbelievers. So you went in the house of God and you ended up married or dating a guy, and these people are saying, oh yeah, I'm of God, I'm in the church, I'm a good man. And then you later on find out that these people are not of God. They're not in the church. They're not as good as you thought that they were, because you were thinking that you were entering into a marriage with a holy person. And now you have married into an unholy marriage. And this happens sometimes in the church, and you have to separate yourself from them. Oh, I'm marrying a preacher. And you're like, okay, well, he's a preacher, he's a teacher, he's a man of God. I'm finally good. I finally got a man of God. And then you start to find out that you're not with a man of God. You're with an unbeliever. And if your heart is not pleased to dwell there, I don't care how much they say, Lord, Lord, because we also know the scriptures, and the scriptures validate this. And by faith, I know that I have to walk, because sometimes some of this stuff isn't going to even be in the Bible. We're only going to get bits and clues of it. So we'll have to fill in the gaps as we live it and use God's guidance. Now, he already tells you if this unbeliever is not happy to dwell with you, then that's an issue, and you need to separate yourself. Okay, well, what if they're saying that they're a believer and they're not? Then now you're dealing with that, because sometimes people put on these shows saying that they're believers, and they're men of God and women of God, and their lifestyles and the way they are is so far from God, and you're like, hold on, wait a minute, no, I can't have this person around me. No, I can't be going through this. I deserve so much more than this. And we're unequally yoked. And even though they're in the church, they're not believers. So now you got to separate yourself. And the church is like, oh, it's not like he's not a believer. Oh, you don't have to go home to him. You don't have to go home to an unbeliever. Because when he's around you, he's a believer. When he's around me at this house, he's not. And see, a lot of times as people of God, we have to sometimes stay in our place because we don't have that all-seeing eye that God got. We don't have that eye that God has that, okay, look, I understand what you're saying because I have witnessed it. We haven't witnessed a lot of this stuff that's going on, so we can't speak on it. We can't interpret stuff. We can't sit up there and say anything about certain situations when it comes to marital situations because we weren't given the position to judge certain situations, because we know that God's supposed to be raising up judges in the church to counsel the church. So when you come unto them and you start to state your case, and when you come unto them and God begins to sit up there and compel you to tell the truth in front of them, you can't lie no more. It's funny when you start seeing people that always lie, and then God begins to do this compelling thing and say, okay, now tell the truth. And they can't lie because they feel like they can go before the court of the holy ones, and they're going to go up in there and they're going to just lie through their teeth. Oh, yeah, I witnessed this, I witnessed that. And then when you go up under seizure, and when God sit up there and hold you and say, okay, now, when you decide to tell the truth, you can be released. Then the truth started to come out. Well, it didn't really go like that. It never went like that. You start wondering why people can't do certain things in front of you. They have to confess the truth of their actions. It's because God has put you in a position where it's going to be a judgment and you're going to be able to witness the truth. They're going to be even if they lie, God will sit up there and hold you under seizure and allow you to see what's going on as everybody else is just there. You're going to be held. And you're going to see exactly what's taking place and what they did and how they did it and the way they did. And you're going to have to judge whether or not you're going to intercede on that situation or not. But because we haven't had any contact with holiness, we know about the devil. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But holiness comes to restore, to fulfill, to minister, to enlighten, to grow you. But we haven't had contact with the Holy Grail. We haven't had contact with too much holiness. So now we're sitting up here and we're destroyed, we're disgruntled, we're angry, we're upset. And sometimes holiness can't come in when we're attached to the wrong people. And what that means is this: if my husband is a problem, my house is filled with things that it should not be filled with. That's why Apostle Paul says sometimes it's better to be alone too. Okay, I thought that I was marrying a righteous man. This man is unrighteous. He believes in all kinds of stuff. Because trust me, you guys don't understand that sometimes in these churches that we have unclean spirits. See, they done told us about the ones in the street. You expect the ones in the streets to have unclean spirits. You expect the dude that you walk down a street next to as you go into the Jamaican restaurants or whatever that's smoking weed. You already know his spirit. So you're not really even trying to trample into that zone with them. But what about the one that's planted right there in the church? With the suit on, the nice suit every Sunday. Who speaks nice and soft every Sunday. Who sits up there and you think that he's a righteous man. Some of y'all deceived too, because some of y'all got some dudes that's in the church and you thinking that they're gay, and them men ain't gay. And y'all got those issues going on because he ain't the type of person that you should kind of fellowship with, because there's certain things that you aren't paying attention to that's going on around you. But we're dealing with a multitude of issues of uncleanliness even in the house of God. Because some of this stuff is coming into the house of God. And, God's word say, come as you are. Yes, come as you are, but get ready for a transformation. So we got things that want to be married to God, but don't want to live holy. That's a hard pill for God to bear too, because now you're dealing with the shoning of God. God. You think it's God not loving you or not caring for you, but first of all, you came into God's house as you are. Now you're dealing with the shoning of God. You feel rejected by God. You feel like God doesn't want you there, and it's the reason why, because sometimes certain things are going on. I remember back in the days, they told us that it's going to come a time when you can't go to church. We never knew why that was like that. We are finding more and more of our young women that's in the church that are going through hoism. And a lot of times y'all don't know what hoism is, so I'm going to tell you what hoism is. Hoism is when they are dealing with pimps and tricks and women that or men that they're using for sexual gratification. And all of these are connected to hoism, which makes them a hoe. And they're not going to tell you that they are into that lifestyle and they're into hoism and they are whores. What they're going to do, they're going to come in and they're going to try to recruit you right there in the church. Some of them pastors, some of them everything that got these high positions, but they believe in being pimps, and they believe in uncleanly ideologies and teachings and stuff like that. So they brought these unclean teachings into the church, and now they're trying to recruit the ones that are seeking diligently after God. So sometimes we had to separate ourselves from the church house. Can't go to church. Why? It's horrible. They're recruiting women. So a lot of times they're using compelling situations, because God compels, but the devil also tries to compel you to do ungodly things, unclean things, unholy things. The only thing that really keeps you is when you sit up there and you read that word of God, when you're sitting up there and you really diligently want a relationship with God and wanting to grow yourself and wanting to be connected to God, that you begin to shun ungodly things. I'm going to be real with you, because the devil works through psychology too. So when you start finding yourself dealing with certain things, because whether you know it or not, they try to compel you through certain signals to the mind. They have their little buttons they push. And these are psychological buttons they push. Psychological things that while you were asleep, they were sewing in. Psychological things while you were resting, because you have to rest. And I'm going to tell you why. It's a need for your body to regenerate energy. Have you ever sat up there and slept, and when you woke up, you felt like you didn't sleep at all? That's the time that you need to be careful, because that's when they were sitting up there doing their little compelling and mind control games that they plan and stuff like that to take possession of you, talking about their masters, and that you are a demonic possession, even though you were created for holy purposes. You were created to praise God. You were created to worship God. You were created to do God's will. We are dealing with a time nowadays where we have to be careful what we marry ourselves to, because whether you know it or not, when we start going to church, it's like a marriage. When we start going to church, it's like a marriage. I'm a woman of God. I'm going to church. I'm married to the church. So I'm trying to do the will of what does say the church and what does say the Lord, because the church is supposed to be an example of God's words for the public to see. So when they come to church, when they're seeking after God and they come to church, they say, oh, I can find God there. And that's a real church of God right there. But what's happening, you're not getting that. And you don't know why you're not getting that. You're not getting that because they have other stuff going on. They have other things that are happening that ain't in the will of God. And you're going through so many different changes because, first of all, if it ain't in the will of God, why is it going on? It's going on to keep you in ungodliness, keep you unholy. If these people ain't holy, if these people ain't righteous, if these people ain't doing what they're supposed to do, you need to get from around them. You need to be unmarried to them. If you know your husband is into whorism and you done seen the statue with the penis erected and all kinds of stuff in the house and stuff like that, that's telling you that man is in hoism. And guess what? As long as you married to him, you in hoism right along with him. That's a religion to these ungodly people. Sometimes we haven't realized that Satan has a religion going on the same way God has a holy religion going on. Satan has an ungodly, unclean religion going on that he's ministering to multitudes. If you don't believe me, when you start reading some of these books of the uncleanly practices in which these people believe in, which they feel like this liberates them and frees them. See, it's something that you have to understand. Great is a man that loses a life. Sometimes we're going to have to sacrifice and be conservative and lose a life to gain true life. Me not having sex gave me the gratification of gaining life. Is it a loss? Because some people say, well, you can't have sex, you can't do this, you can't do that. It was a gratification for me. It was a loss for me, but a gratification nevertheless, because it's going to come a time they're going to say, oh, well, you're going to want somebody to be with. Because this is what Satan has psychologically programmed into you. You're seeing couples together, you're seeing them happy, but you don't know what it's like when they go home. See, everybody see the couple when they together and holding their hands. Oh, your girlfriend pretty, all this stuff right here. But they ain't never had to go home with her. They ain't never had to go home with Miss Beyonce. You don't know what Miss Beyonce like at the house. Oh, your man is nice looking. He's that. You ain't had to go home with that man top model. You don't go through what I go through with him. You never had to deal with the drama I had to deal with him. But because they see you there and they see you happy, they don't know what it's like to be married. They don't know what it's like to have to deal with them disappointing you, disrespecting you, cursing you out, mistreating you, the malice that goes on, the disrespect that goes on, the destructive behavior that goes on when you're on the rise. They didn't have to deal with all of that. And the reason why they didn't have to deal with all of that is because they weren't in a relationship. So your loss was your gain, but at the same time you didn't see it as a gain. Sometimes a man loses a life to find the life. Sometimes you're going to have to give up some things that you like to do. You might like to smoke weed or whatever the case may be. And giving up that to actually obtain a life is a hard thing to do. Crack, all that stuff, X pills, whatever you're doing, drinking, smoking, whatever you're doing. You're giving all of that up, and guess what? That right now is the hype crew because everybody going to the nightclub, but you're the one that's not going. And then you hear the stories the next day on the job or hanging out at school. Yeah, girl, we went to the club. We turned up. We were hyped. We had this. Yeah, guess who we saw? Girl, we saw a celebrity. Yes, there was a bunch of them out there. Yo, one tried to date me, girl. I ain't even lying. and you're hearing all of that. All of that is supposed to draw you into that situation, draw you into that. But guess what? If you sit up there and you don't give in to that temptation, and you actually hold to the word of God, and you actually keep with the will of God, you're going to realize, I may have lost that good time. I may have lost that joy time. I may have lost that time where I could have had party, dance, and did whatever I wanted to do. But guess what? I'm having a better time now because I lost that life so that I can gain a better one. I didn't go out to the club because what they don't tell you at the club is nothing but a recruiting spot for hoism. So guess what? You're at the club one night, and next thing you know, you're starting to find yourself going home with random men. And that's a sign of hoism. So as you're going to those clubs every night, now, if you never entered into a club, you don't have those problems. But they're trying to now bring those problems on the conservatives and the ones that send home, saying, okay, well, look, I'm going to stay home with my family. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to do what I have to do. But guess what? Young women, you're entering into those clubs, but they don't tell you is that they want to use your body for hoism. It's men in those clubs that want the one night stand with you, want to play with you that night, want to have a good time with you that night, and want to make you real, real dirty. But it's going to be up to you to say, okay, I'm not going to enter into that club. I'm not going to go nowhere near these gentlemen. I'm not going to be the lady type. I'm a woman. And trust me, you're going to get sick and tired of this, because where I live at, a lady is classy. And they think that's the highest standard for a woman. But where I come from, a woman is a woman. And I'm going to be a woman in the streets and a woman at home too. No matter what I do, I'm going to be a woman about it. And you going to respect me after we get up out the bed with each other. But what's taking place now is that you're not allowed to be a woman, because they want freaks and they want all this stuff right here. And it sounds just like what they say, freaks. Because you got the bearded women, you got the bearded lady, women, however you want to word it. You got the man shooting fire out of his mouth. You got the circus going on right there in them clubs. And you hurting yourself because you're not doing what God has called you to do. So now we have to separate ourselves from unholy things. This is not just, think about it, this is not just long-term commitments, because sometimes we'll find ourselves marrying to the wrong people. Trust me. I found myself in so many different relationships where I was married to the wrong people. I was married, I was invested in that relationship. I had done investments with that relationship, but that relationship was draining my investment. It was depreciating my value. I had no merit anymore. I had no standards anymore. I had no status anymore, because my connection to relationships that weren't for me. And you got to realize, I'm going to tell you young women again, don't trust these men. Don't trust these women, men, because men think that these women are into hoism. These women will have gay men raping you, and you are a man. So men, be careful who you allow into your house. Be careful who you allow with you, because you might find yourself starting to have sexual desires for a man, and it's a reason why you're having sexual desires for a man, because even when you're not conscious, certain things are taking place where there's a brainwashing. There's a certain thing taking place. Women, be careful with your bodies, because you're going to find yourself going through a certain thing where certain things are taking place and you're not conscious or aware to it. You're wondering why you having these desires, okay, because certain things are taking place and you're not even aware that they were taking place, and these people are taking advantage of you, and now you're finding yourself in sexual situations and you never even put yourself in a sexual situation to begin with. But they couldn't stand the holiness that was in you, and that's part of the reason why you have to be separated from anything that isn't holy, anything that isn't clean, anything that isn't adding to God's will for your life. That means even if it's a church, if you got to sit up there and you got to do YouTube ministries and listening to Creflo Dollar, Juanita Bynum, or whoever you got to listen to, Price, whoever you got to listen to get it together, and you get it together at home, then you do what you have to do. But I'm going to be real with you. Don't allow people to keep you dwelling with people that aren't happy around you, unholy people, because what they do, they will torture you. You can't be fulfilled. Why? I got all this unclean stuff going on around me. I never knew I had my mother that hated me so much and didn't want me to prosper. You know, this image came and she was going through possession, and I started to realize, okay, she's not for me. I spent years and years under this person, trying to assist this person, trying to help this person, and I kept wondering, why wasn't I prospering? Why wasn't I growing? Why wasn't I going places? I wasn't going places because I have unclean spirits around me, unclean people around me, and these people don't have my best interests at heart. Family or no family. And then that's where Jesus comes in and he says, okay, my mother, my brother, my sister, my family are those that do the will of the Father that sent me. I got a bloodline family, but I got a spiritual family that wants me to prosper and wants the best for me. That's investing in me. But here I am investing in a bloodline that's not investing in me. And I'm not going to keep going through because I have people that's not invested in me. And I'm going through turmoil. I'm hurting. I'm unhappy. I'm crying. For no reason at all. In the middle of the day, you might find yourself crying. And you're like, well, why am I crying so much? I'm not supposed to live like this. And it's the reason why you're living like that. You're living like that because you're going through rejection. You're going through abuse. You're going through all these things, and you don't even have a recollection because you have allowed the wrong people around you. And they didn't come and say, look, we unclean, we ungodly, we believe in holism, we believe in destruction, we believe in theft, we believe in suicide, we believe in assaults, we believe in trying to make you commit suicide against yourself, we believe in all this killing type of stuff, we believe in all this assassin type of stuff, we believe in everything that is not of God. They're not going to tell you that when they meet you at the door. They're not going to tell you that their lives weren't what it's supposed to be and that they aren't godly people. They just trying to get in the door. Once they get in the door, pay attention to the signs, because by their fruits you shall know them. What kind of fruits are you displaying to me? What are you showing me? Bring fruit worthy of repentance, because certain things you can't come around me with, because your fruits is going to tell me about your personality. I don't care how ungodly you may think you are. We can tell who is of God and who ain't of God just by the way they live their lifestyle, because people that are of God, their lifestyle is so conservative. People that ain't of God, they start seeking out ungodly things. And that's called the drawing, the luring. The luring gonna have you seeking out the unclean things. Certain places you cannot go. I tell people this all the time. Certain places you cannot go. I don't care what the situation is, because these places are holding places for unclean spirit, ungodly things going on. I tell women all the time, can't go to a lingerie shop. I know you got a husband. I know you want to put on for him. I know you want to go all the way out, but that right there is a link to uncleanness, ungodly things happening. even in a marriage, because you putting on for him at those lingerie places, and he might have an appetite for more than what you can do. So don't put on for him. Be more conservative. I don't know how to tell y'all, because a lot of times we're going into places that's going to put us in bad situations. And sometimes those are those lingerie shops, Victoria's Secret, all these different places and stuff like that. It's something about the scent that's going to draw and attract certain type of attention that you may not be actually willing to want. Everybody knows my scent. I'm going to be real with you. If you ever smell me, all you're going to smell is soap, baby lotion, and perfume, and deodorant. That's usually my normal scent. I remember one guy, I put on deodorant, he said, you wearing my wife's deodorant now. I had deodorant on that day, and he smelled my deodorant, and he's like, you wearing my wife's deodorant now. Because me and his wife smelled similar because of what I was wearing. You have to be helpful, because certain scents can draw certain attention. Certain things you do can draw attention. Certain things that's going on can draw attention. I never even know these people was using cocoa butter for a calling, sexual calling. I remember my baby lotion. Sometimes I would sit up there and I would use my baby lotion, and my baby lotion absorbs quickly in the skin. And one time I'm using it, and I say, this baby lotion been switched with some cocoa butter, because cocoa butter lathers on the skin. It takes a long time to absorb in. And a lot of people don't. Shea butter and cocoa butter lotion takes a long time to absorb in. Baby lotion doesn't. It's quickly absorbed into the skin and moisturizes the skin. Be careful what you're doing, where you're going, because nobody knew that cocoa butter and shea butter lotion was a calling for homosexual activities, and these people were saying, oh, well, by this smell, this is what they're about. And other people wear cocoa butter and shea butter lotion, and they ain't on none of that stuff. So you really have to be careful with what's going on in today's society. Get thee out from amongst evil. Get thee out from amongst certain environments. Of course, my people lived here for years, but I don't think this is the right environment for me. I might need to seek out better grazing ground, or a better place to stay, better area, more conservative, more reserved areas. Not saying that the same thing isn't going on. Just saying, look, I might need to go into a little bit more of a hiding, conservative area. Like I said, separate yourself from anything that ain't of God, that ain't for God, and you'll see a different result, because God got plans to expand you, but He can't expand you amongst the foolishness. May God bless you. Hope these words encourage you.